In today's video, we're testing the BFGoodrich KO3 in the mud, so stay tuned. It has finally rained. After 2 months post-winter, we get our first rainfall. It's not raining too bad right now, but it still is going to be a valid test because it rained overnight and the roads are properly wet. Now, a lot of people have said that the BFGoodrich KO series of tires are no good in wet conditions, wet roads, or in the rain. They said the KO2 was terrible in the rain, and I just don't get it. I had the KO2s. If you've been watching this series, you'll know that, and I just don't see a problem. So normal driving in wet conditions, it's fine. We're gonna take a off-ramp here, and I'll show you, like, there's no issues. Even some different road surface there, and that was roughly 50 miles an hour. No problem. Driving on the highway at 60 some odd miles an hour, and it feels like I'm driving in the dry, you know, with the exception of all the rain noise. Your typical road has a few puddles here and there. Can't even tell. Now maybe people are talking about hydroplaning or aquaplaning, which is a real thing. Every tire is going to have a limit. Eventually, you know, you get enough speed or enough water under the tire, it will hydroplane. That's normal. I just have never really had an issue with it. Like, it's never thrown me out of control. I've never felt unstable. It's just always been pretty comfortable. I think it's never a worry. Now, I should say that if you're running a light vehicle like a Jeep or a Toyota Tacoma and you have a relatively wide tire like a 35 by 12 and a half or something like that, you're gonna hydroplane, or you're more likely to hydroplane than I will on a 35 by 12 and a half because of the weight of my truck, which is about 8,500 pounds minimum. So that is something to consider. So I'm driving in this torrential downpour and the tires are doing just fine. There's no aquaplaning or anything like that. I'm doing about 70 miles an hour and everything is good. We're on some nice smooth pavement and still not having any issues, even though there's a sheet of water on it. But yeah, tires are doing great. And it's common to have these puddles on the edge of the road where the crown is. Woo! Some big splashes. But it's not throwing me out of control, that's for sure. Naturally, the weight of my vehicle is helping. This is gonna be a big one. I don't know why driving through puddles is fun, but it is. About 40 miles an hour. Here we're driving on a wet, greasy, muddy kind of road. 70 kilometers an hour, which is about 40 something odd miles an hour. I'm not feeling unstable. Everything feels completely in control. Brakes, I'm not locking them up at all. Acceleration, I mean, I could spin them if I want to, but no problems. No problem. Making my truck all dirty, that's for damn sure. Plenty of grip, plenty of grip. How about the grip on some relatively new pavement, completely muddy and wet? We'll try. Like, not full throttle, but it still moves just fine. Like, I'm doing 50 miles an hour and I can, you know, make lane changes completely in control. Quick steering, it's still reactive. Yeah, still very reactive. So as far as rain and wet roads go, I have no issues at all with the KO3. And again, I didn't have any issues with the KO2, but this feels as good or better. If you're having problems, it might be more related to your specific vehicle than the tire itself. But anyways, let's go find some mud.
Several months later.
I mentioned in the first video that the KO3 has a tighter tread block right here compared to the KO2, and that's going to hold on to mud more. And that's not ideal for mud performance. However, the KO3's improvement is right here in the outer tread blocks where it's more aggressive, and these side biters stick out more, and that should give us an improvement in mud performance. And we're going to find that out right now. I'm going to drop my tire pressure to about 55 in the front. All right, well, we'll try driving down some basic roads. We'll start in two-wheel drive. Nope, it's very slippery. It is very, very slippery. All right, we'll try that again in four-wheel drive. All right, we'll try something else here. We'll try going up this hill. It's chilling, but we're still moving. Holy cow. Holy shit. That is slick. Pay attention to how the tire picks up mud. We've talked about how the center tread blocks fill the voids and clog with mud, and that happens quite quickly. However, you can see the outer edges stay clean a lot longer, and without a doubt, this is where most of your traction is coming from in the mud. Eventually, the whole tire can clog up, but some wheel speed certainly helps keep the tread clean, especially on the outer edges. that coming out of the ruts. Back when we all the way up. So what are my thoughts on the BFGoodrich KO3? Well, in the mud, it's not a mud tire. Let's be very clear, it is not a mud tire, but it does pretty well for an all-terrain. It's not gonna get you through the deep, deep mud, especially on a super heavy truck like this. If you had a Jeep or a Tacoma or something like that, I'm sure it would do better. But when you're 8,500, 9,000 pounds, it'll sink pretty quick. So I stayed out of the big deep puddles because I didn't have anybody to pull me out today. Maybe one day we'll come back here and test it out if I have a buddy to help me out. But anyways, the tire, it does clog up a bit in the center like we expected, but it does clear off with some wheel speed. So you start spinning the tires, this will clear off and you will get some traction. I did have a lot of trouble getting out of the ruts. So if I had lower tire pressure, you know, if I was running 20 PSI, 30 PSI, I'm sure it probably would have got out. But since this is, again, a daily driver, and then I got to drive on the highway. So I'm not driving around with 30 PSI on a big truck like this. So be realistic to what you're doing. As for the rest of it, we tested it. The dry is fine. The wet roads, fine. Snow, I thought it did great. Definitely better than the KO2s. A couple of drawbacks I did find. Some people mentioned vibrations. I gotta say, I did feel some. I went on a road trip and I had some vibrations at about 60, 70 miles an hour. That could be because I put some, the bean bags in there for balancing because it's a big tire. Maybe I should have gone with a proper balancing and maybe I'll have to take it in. But so far, there's a little bit. It's not bad, but I can feel a little bit there and I'm quite certain it's from the tires. Another thing is miles per gallon has reduced. I didn't think that'd be the case, but I'm seeing at least half a mile per gallon, maybe more. Around the city, definitely worse, probably a full mile per gallon worse. It's awful. And I think it's attributed to the weight of the tires because this is a 12 ply versus the old 10 ply. It's heavier. I think it was like 30 kilograms heavier with all the tires. And yeah, just for whatever reason, the only thing I switched was the tires and it got worse. So I've done many tanks of fuel on this. I should also mention, during the testing of this mud, I think I have several thousand miles on it. So they're not brand new. So those hard edges that you get on a brand new tire, they're gone. So they're kind of worn through. But again, your typical drive. The whole point of this is to show you what a typical truck is going to do on these tires. And I think it passed with flying colors for what it's intended to do. So would I give it my recommendation? Absolutely, 100%. I'm sure there's a few other tires that could compete with it. I wish I could try them all, but this is the one I got, and I absolutely say it is good. So if you like these videos, make sure you hit the thumbs up, subscribe, and thanks for watching.